Welcome to the WP Builds podcast, bringing you the latest news from the WordPress community. Now, welcome your hosts, David Wormsley and Nathan Wrigley.
Hello there and welcome to the WP Builds podcast. Once again, this is episode number 183, entitled How I Have Evolved with My Wallace Inline WordPress plugin. It was published on Thursday the 10th of June 2020. My name's Nathan Wrigley, and a few bits of housekeeping before we begin. Firstly, something new to mention. I've joined forces with a good friend of mine, Sabrina Zidane, and we are going to launch a brand new live mini-series of podcast episodes. And when I say live, that means they're going to be going out in our Facebook group over at wpbuilds.com/Facebook or at wpbuilds.com/live. Now, the intention of this is to launch, like I said, a mini-series. It's entitled WordPress Plugin Startup from 0 to 10k installs, because Sabrina has launched a new plugin and she's going to be charting over many weeks how it's all gone, what she did well, what she did badly, what she's learned along the way, and she's going to be sharing that with us, which I think is really nice. If you head over to wpbuilds.com/Facebook, you'll see that I've pinned this as an announcement at the top of the page, and you can go and get yourself a reminder. But just to say that it's on the 16th of June, and the 16th of June is in fact a Tuesday, and it's at 2 p.m. UK time. So I'd really appreciate it if you could give me and Sabrina your support by turning up for that. That would be really nice, and maybe we'll all learn something along the way. It's not intended as kind of like a masterclass, because we're just learning from Sabrina what her mistakes were along the way, and maybe if you're going to produce a product in the WordPress space, this might be of some interest to you. So join us for that. The other things to mention are wpbuilds.com/subscribe. Over there, you'll be able to join our Facebook group, sign up for our newsletters, and find us on your favourite podcast player. All the usual stuff. Head over also to wpbuilds.com/deals for a whole bunch of WordPress deals. They're there 365 days of the year, and they never seem to go away. I've added a couple of new ones this week, so go and check that out. And also wpbuilds.com/advertise if you would like to have your product or service put in front of a WordPress specific audience, a bit like A/B split test have done. Do you want to set up your A/B split tests in record time, like in a couple of minutes? Use your existing pages and test anything against anything else. Buttons, images, headers, rows, really anything. And the best part is that it works with Elementor, Beaver Builder, and the WordPress block editor. Check it out at absplittest.com. Okay, let's get stuck into the main event, shall we? This is an interview that I did a few months ago, so a little bit of the content may be out of date. Perhaps Bradley has in fact updated the plugin, but I'm speaking to Bradley Kirby this week all about how it's been going at Wallace Inline. Wallace Inline is a plugin that you can use to edit just things on the page inline. So the idea is that you click on a title and you edit it directly there. It started out as something in Beaver Builder, compatible with Beaver Builder only, but recently he's added a whole bunch of new functionality. So for example, he's got some support for Elementor, he's added in things for Beaver Themer, he's added in ACF and pods fields, he's got those working as well. But he also talks about how the plugin works, what it does, what it conceals, who it can conceal things from, and if you're interested in making it so that your clients can only modify certain things exactly as they appear on the page, this could well be of interest to you. So I hope that you enjoy the podcast. Hello there. Thank you for getting to the interview part of the podcast. Today I'm joined by Bradley Kirby. How are you doing, Bradley?
Good. How are you, Nathan?
Yeah, good. We've had Bradley on. I think we've had Bradley on the podcast once, and then we've done some like webinars and things like that. Bradley, if you've not come across him before, is a product developer. He's a plugin developer for WordPress. It's kind of in the page builder space. You may well have heard of something called Wallace Inline, but if you haven't, I could explain it, but I'm bound to do a terrible job of it. So let's hand it over to Bradley and say, hi, Bradley, what does Wallace Inline do?
Hello. So Wallace Inline is a client-friendly editor for WordPress, and you can kind of think of it as a super minimalist front-end editor meant specifically for clients to use. And right now it's compatible with Beaver Builder and Elementor.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I was interrupting you slightly there. What does that exactly mean? What does it add to the what is the compatibility that it adds to Beaver Builder? Let's start there.
So the way I think about it is, if you're an agency or a freelancer making websites for other people, you're using these page builders to design really great pages for your clients, but you don't necessarily want to train them on, give them access to the page builders themselves. And so that's where Wallace Inline comes in. It allows them to edit just the content on the sites that you built them with these page builders without giving them access to the page builder itself. So you're able to, like, the client is able to go on the live site, click the live editor button in the admin bar, and then edit the site right there in line. So there's no separate editing interface. There's no separate like design type features. They can just click on the text, edit the text right there, click on an image, edit the image, and it provides a really nice experience for the clients while still providing that separation of concerns for the agency.
So is this done like on user roles then? So for example, if I'm the administrator of the site and I can have access to absolutely everything, do I assign them a particular unique and special kind of Wallace Inline role, or is it configured for the editor role or contributor or whatever it might be?
Yeah, it's customizable by role and by user itself. So you would typically assign them what's called like limited access. And so the limited access role basically gives you the ability to define on a module by module basis what they're allowed to edit and what they're not. And then there's also you can even get more granular than that and give a particular user only access to a single page. So there's a highly granular, highly well defined how much access or little access you can give to your clients or the people that you want using the product.
Okay, so let's say, for example, that you've built a site and I've had you build that site and you're handing it over to me. Prior to handing it over, presumably there'd be some, toing and froing and conversation about what capabilities should you have? Do you want to be able to edit everything? That's probably not a good idea. Okay, we'll set you up with some limited capabilities just to make life easy for you. And actually, to be honest, a lot of my clients want exactly that. They don't want the ability to break things. They're terrified of the tyranny of seeing all the menus. I just want to edit it. Why is the text over there that I want to edit over here? And so on and so forth. So I would then, as your client, go to the website, log in with the credentials I'm given, and then I would be looking at the page directly, and I would be hovering around trying to get some sort of visual feedback as to the bits that I can edit. Yeah. Okay. And so what are the limitations of this? So let's say, for example, that I go to a typical homepage where I've got a hero section with a background image. I might have some large H1 text at the top there. And if we scroll down, there might be some more images, some more text. There might be a video on there, something along those lines. What are the capabilities? Let's say that I want to give them a whole load of different possibilities. What can I kind of lock down on a module by module basis, or allow on a module by module basis?
So you could lock down any individual module that you wanted, and even any individual field that you wanted. And by lockdown, I mean you as the admin would go in and click the lock button right there on the interface. And then when the client logged in on their account, they just simply wouldn't be able to hover over that and edit it. But in terms of content types, if you wanted to give them access, you could give them access to editing text, editing images, even editing background images. The only real sort of system-wide limitation, and this is more just a product decision, is that the clients don't have access to like editing anything to do with the design. And so if they wanted to make some text bigger or smaller, that's not something that's offered right now. Or if they wanted to like change colors of stuff, that's not offered right now. The idea there is that that's your job as the designer as the website builder is to define the design.
Yeah. I mean, I can see this being really extremely useful just from the point of view of not having to deal with catastrophic mess ups that come back to you. What I'm meaning is you've handed it over to the client. They've definitely requested administrator permissions. You've somehow been coerced into giving them that, and the site is launched. And 2 weeks later, you go to look at it and you realize everything is wrong. They've adjusted the font size. They've adjusted the text. They've adjusted the padding and the margins. The image image that you so carefully cropped has now been ruined by some other abomination and so on. So this just strips away all that pain. You, as part of the process of building out a page, you add an additional step, presumably right at the end before you're finished, of going in and locking everything down. Or can you do it the other way around? Can you just sort of like lock everything down and then go and unlock just the bits that you want?
I don't think there's a way right now to by default lock everything down, but I don't think also that it would be that common of a scenario to be locking down so much of the site.
Yeah,
because it's so fundamentally built for content only anyway that it's sort of like that already, that just by virtue of the fact that you're not giving them access to the page builder, all those design elements are locked down. And like you're saying, I definitely think it cuts down on the instances of like the site's getting messed up and instances of support requests for like your clients are giving you. It's not that surprising to me that if you give someone a powerful tool that they're going to want to use those powerful features, right? So I think being able to set the context of like what is the most common and the most useful things to edit versus what's not. And then, of course, if there is a design type element that they disagree with or that they want to talk to you about, you're still just an email away. So it's not like those things are locked down forever.
Yeah.
But this sets the context in that, like, okay, this is what on a day-to-day basis you're going to be editing, and then the other stuff is out of sight, out of mind.
Do you typically find that people that use your plugin use it simply, well, let's put it this way, they kind of conceal the fact that there was ever a page builder there at all, and they just introduce it to the client as, look, this is the editing experience that you're going to have, and there's no mention that actually we could, if we really wanted to, give you considerable, you could give you much more power if you so chose. I can see myself deploying it that way, just when I make the videos to explain how the site works and what have you, just log in as them and then pretend like that's all that would ever have been allowed to do anyway.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And a lot of my customers do that.
Yeah.
A common sort of other customization to do along with Wallace Inline is editing the admin bar so that the page builders they're disappeared, so they don't even have the idea of access of a page builder.
Yeah.
And then this often goes along with like intense white labeling of the backend dashboard, if they're even allowed access to the backend dashboard or even given access. And so I think that's actually a very common use case.
Does Wallace Inline do any of that heavy lifting of removing the little beaver builder or Elementor editing options in the admin area? Do you provide that functionality? Have you got to figure out another workaround for that?
No, it doesn't yet. Yeah. You would have to do some custom work on your own. But I think there are lots of other simple plugins that you can achieve that with.
So what's the queue that you see on the page? So again, let's pretend that I'm the logged in user who's got limited access. As I've logged in and I'm rolling my mouse around, what are the cues that alert me to the fact that there's something over here? Is it like a little rectangle which goes over some text, or a little cog icon, or a little wrench, or whatever it might be?
Yeah, so it is just a dotted blue border around the editable text and images. And then once you hover over that dotted blue border becomes a solid blue border. And then once you click in it, you're obviously given a cursor icon, or you're given an edit button in the case of images. And so that can guide you through the process of editing the content.
And what about an image then? How would I? So I mean, the cursor's a bit of a giveaway, isn't it? You get the flashing line, and oh look, here I can type on the keyboard and things. I can type in text and remove text and what have you. What about images and background images and so on? How do you display that there's an image to be altered?
So images are pretty straightforward. They're like text. There's the dotted blue border around the image, and so you'll click that, and then the image will highlight itself and give you an edit button. And then once you click the edit button, the typical WordPress media library will open up and will allow you to select an image that you've already uploaded or to upload a new image. Mm-hmm. And once you've selected that, it'll display inline, display where it will display on the live site. And then background images are pretty interesting, because background images, the way I think about it is there's always going to be some amount of text in front of the background image, and you don't know where exactly that's going to be. So when I was designing the interface for editing background images, I was like, well, you can't guarantee that whatever button you're going to put there is going to be interactable. So the way I did it was sort of I call it like a contextual menu item will pop up in the live editor toolbar at the bottom left, where if you click on text that's above a background image, there will be a new button that pops up in the live editor toolbar that will allow you to then edit that background image.
And then presumably the fact that all of this, you've got limited array of possible editing options. It takes your time to explain the page builder and all of its, all of its little intricacies almost to zero. You could, create a video, hover the mouse around a little bit, say, click here, type, and here's how you edit images, and you're done, and probably have that whole process sealed within a minute.
Yeah, exactly. It's very, very intuitive. The goal for me building this product was to put as little interface as possible between the user and the live site.
Okay.
And so it's just the bare necessities of selecting and saving and publishing that are actually exist, and everything else is right there in the live site. And there's no separate URL like there is for a builder. There's no separate page load. You're literally loading the live site and just clicking a little live editor button in the top bar, and then you're getting a little toolbar, and then everything else is right there on the live site.
It kind of feels to me that when I hand over a site which has got lorem text, I feel a bit nervous about that, because that immediately requires the user to kind of log in and explore all the different options, and up pops Beaver Builder, and suddenly all those menus are there. Oh, look, if I did this, I could change its font size, and I could change its color, or what have you. It feels to me that you'd be far more likely to wish to hand a site full of lorem over with this setup, because you can just say, well, you can just write whatever text you want in there. That's the gap that it's going to go in, and that they're not going to go off exploring ways to break it.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's
and it's kind of it's painting in the lines. It's like filling in the blanks, because they're not creating new modules and they're not deleting them. So you're setting up the layout, and like you say, you put in the placeholder images, the placeholder text, and then they, as the clients, are best positioned to write that copy or to hand that off to a copywriter that they might have in order to write that copy.
So I guess one of the questions that would be asked is, so presumably we can do regular WordPress posts and pages. That'll all work just out of the box. But increasingly, WordPress is becoming the playground for more sophisticated solutions, advanced custom fields and things like that. So the content that you see on the page is the product of a field which is in some random custom post type and what have you. Are there any kind of integrations with those kind of products, custom field creation tools?
Yes. So if you're a Beaver Builder and Beaver Themer customer, I've just recently come out with advanced custom fields and also pod support, which is a similar solution to custom fields. And so if you're creating custom fields through Beaver Themer, all of those are editable in the same way with Wallace Inline. And so from a user perspective, what's neat about that is, again, like the underlying technology is completely hidden. For them, it's just a piece of text. It doesn't matter that it's a custom field. And they're able to edit it like any other piece of text. And that's the main, I'm kind of the holy grail with this product, and what I'm working towards every day is that kind of unified editing experience where you as the designer developer are using all of these sophisticated tools, custom fields and page builders and page templates and layouts and so forth to build a really nice dynamic site. And then all of that is unified by Wallace Inline for a simple editing interface for the clients.
I guess the follow-up question to that would be then, let's say, for example, I've created a custom post type, of shoes, and in there are images of shoes, and there's custom fields listing things like a description of the shoe and the size of the shoe and what have you, all the different things that shoes can have. And I've created a Beaver Themer layout, which is basically just like a templating system. It allows me to create a page for the shoe content type and arrange, okay, the picture for all shoes will go over there, the title for all shoes will go over there, and then when you load up a page for a particular shoe, it looks just like that. So when I'm logged in as the user that I'm pretending to be, and I go to, I don't know, this particular shoe and change the title of it, or change some text, are you somehow sort of squirreling that data away in a different table somewhere, and I'm writing it over the top and deleting or are you literally customizing, editing the ACF field in the custom post type?
It is the custom field itself. That's what you're editing. There's no separate like mirroring, anything like that.
Okay, there's no disguising. So I suppose that might be an interesting thing which might rear its head with the clients. Let's say, for example, that you've deployed. That was a bad example, shoes. Now I'm thinking about, I don't know, something like testimonials might be a better one. And you could have those testimonials appearing in multiple different places on websites, and I can imagine that you could do some sort of filter so that it presents a random one on this particular page and it shows the third testimonial on this particular page. I suppose you've got to be a bit mindful and educate the users about that. Okay, you're editing it over here, but just be careful, because that means it's also going to be spitting out a different one over there. It's not just that the page is static.
Yep, exactly. With great power comes great responsibility in that regard, I think.
Yeah, but I guess I guess that's just how it is. So you've got through Beaver Themer, you can use ACF and pods. Have you got any more sort of like roadmap features that you're thinking about integrating into the Beaver Builder stack at the moment?
Beaver Builder, I think, is looking pretty good right now in terms of the breadth of support. So right now you have global fields are editable. You have Beaver Themer headers, footers are editable. You have the advanced custom field stuff is editable through Beaver Themer. Background fields or background images are editable. Icons are editable. So I feel actually pretty good about where Beaver Builder is right now. In terms of expanding integration, right now I'm focusing on Elementor. I want to get the Elementor theme builder stuff online, which is not online yet, and increasing like third-party support for Elementor.
Okay. Yeah. Can I come to Elementor in just 1 second? I just want to ask you one final Beaver Builder related question, and that is that is the one about you just mentioned global areas. So in Beaver Builder, traditionally, if you go over and edit something, you get this blue, as you described, this blue kind of rectangle which appears, and if it's a global row or what have you, it's I'm going to say orange. I'm not sure whether it's orange or not, but it kind of looks orange. That is orange. Do you adopt that same notion? So you could tell a client, right, this is used elsewhere, likely because it's orange, or do you in some way indicate that visually?
I actually don't right now, but that is I should do that, and I think a previous version of Wallace Inline did do that, but for some reason I had disabled it. But I think that's going to be making a return, because you're right. Any sort of dynamic module where text in one place is going to be represented somewhere else. Yeah, there definitely should be a UI type indication for that. So that'll be making a return for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's just more of a like, oh, it's orange. Okay, be careful. Where else is this used? I mean, you don't need to know particularly where else it's used. Hopefully, if you're a frequent user of your own website and you're modifying it periodically, you'll have some indication of where else it's being used. It might not be being used elsewhere, but there you go. Okay, that's great. Thank you. So Elementor, you obviously chose to go with Beaver Builder and build it out, and you've got all of these great features, Themer, ACF, and pods. Where are you at on the Elementor journey? Obviously, in terms of like user base, Elementor is now, I don't know how many times bigger, but it certainly seems to have a significantly larger audience. So it seems like a sensible option to head over there. Where are you in terms of the feature parity?
So in Elementor side, so there's support for all modules, all basic text and image modules, both in the free version and in the pro version. And so that's where I'm at right now. And then as well as a few third-party supports for the third-party elements. But I built out the infrastructure such that it's very quick to introduce more third-party module support. It's just a pretty simple configuration file that I can update. Okay. And so actively working on expanding the third-party support for Elementor, as well as looking at the theme builder in Elementor to provide those same sort of dynamic capabilities that exist in Beaver Builder today.
Just interested in the architecture of both of these comparatively, side by side. Were there any kind of interesting things that you achieved in Beaver Builder? And, you begin with a nice, fresh install of Elementor for the first time, however many months ago that was, and you thought, right, okay, let's crack on with this. And suddenly you hit a roadblock because something about the way it's been architected is different. I'm sure you've probably got lots of stories like that.
Yeah, that's something I was pretty scared of when I was embarking on the journey to support Elementor. But it turned out that the architectures were similar enough that I didn't have to substantially rewrite Wallace Inline. And actually, about a year ago now, maybe 9 months, I completely rewrote all of the architecture of Wallace Inline in order to be able to do this sort of thing. So I took an early look at Elementor even back then and was like, can I use this same approach? And the answer ended up being no. And it needed to, back then it kind of needed to be rewritten anyway. Software kind of has a shortest shelf life where, at least as the developer, you're like, this is not working. I need to just start from scratch. And so I ended up doing that. And as a result of that, the infrastructure now is way more applicable to be able to support different page builders, and including Guttenberg, the native WordPress builder, going forward. Still requires a significant amount of work, but it's not so much work that it's like building a whole new plugin.
Yeah, it feels to me, and you've probably got a really good insight into this, it feels to me as if very frequently we're seeing significant amount of PR from Elementor in terms of features that they've added. I can think of maybe half a dozen things that I've seen over the last 6 months, whereas Beaver Builder seems to be much more steady away. They're sort of staying on the path. They're working. Well, I don't know what the purpose specifically for that is, but there's less in terms of media and what have you, and so it kind of raises the question with Elementor iterating so quickly. Do they re-architect things massively, or has that period? Because I know at the beginning of Elementor's journey, there were a few discussions about the fact that they'd introduced a feature and it caused problems down the road. But my understanding is those days are kind of long gone. Yeah,
in my experience, they're not really changing the fundamentals, the fundamental technical architecture of the plugin anymore. So yeah, but you're definitely right that they're iterating very quickly, kind of up the stack, if you want to call it that way, in terms of like the amount of like design features that they're bringing in and the stuff that they're doing with like sections and like background images and stuff like that. But none of that stuff affects the day-to-day that I'm interacting with their software with.
Mm. The plugin itself, do we have to purchase the plugin in the Elementor version and the Beaver Builder version separately, or do we just download one plugin and throw it at either of those two page builders and it'll all be good?
Nope, just one purchase for all page builders.
Oh, interesting. So whatever state it's at with Elementor, that's where it's at, and whatever state it's at with Beaver Builder, that's where it's at. But you don't need to go and find the sort of Elementor add-on or the Beaver Builder add-on or anything. Just the bare bones Wallace Inline plugin.
Yep, that's exactly right. Yeah, that kind of goes along with my vision for it as a unified interface, where it doesn't make much sense, I don't think, to kind of separate out the plugin in that way. I wanted to just integrate with whatever you're using to build sites for your clients, and for it to just work, and for you to be able to change those things.
It's a really interesting model, especially sort of from a pricing point of view, because I suppose you could have approached that entirely differently. Here is something quite separate. Elementor support is new. It's something that was never in the Beaver Builder version, so I'm going to put it out there and charge separately. So, wow, okay, that's great. So if you've got a copy, if you've historically had a copy, you've basically just inherited the capability to stick it in Elementor sites as well. That's great.
Yep, that's right.
Wow, that was a courageous decision. But I suppose looking at it from your point of view, it was also quite a sensible decision, because you'll bring over the existing users who hopefully will, if they've migrated from Beaver Builder and have started using Elementor, or vice versa, they'll be satisfied and talking about it and raving about it and what have you.
Yeah, absolutely. And am selling and have sold lifetime licenses in the past, so it feels like that's the best thing to do if you're selling lifetime licenses. Is you're sort of selling your future work as well. So it kind of might rub people the wrong way a little bit for them to not get what I'm coming out with next.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, speaking of pricing, let's have a quick look at that. So if you go over to wallaceinline.com, so just to spell that out, WALLACE inline.com, you'll currently, the date of recording this, you've got 3 pricing options. Do you want to just run through what the 3 options are and what you can achieve by spending a bit more?
Yeah, the 3 pricing tiers right now are 3 sites for $49 a year, an unlimited number of sites for $99 a year, and then lifetime unlimited sites for $249 for a one-time purchase.
Okay, and so $49, $99, or $249. And let me just get that right. What was the 3 sites was the $49 option, and then if you buy the higher 2, you can put it on unlimited sites. So $99 per year, unlimited number of sites, equally with the lifetime purchase. But if you like it kind of makes sense to me. When you're on your first renewal, it kind of feels like if you're still enjoying it and what have you, it makes sense at that point maybe to hop over to the lifetime. Happy with the lifetime? You still feeling that's a good option? I know that there's a lot of discussion about whether there's sort of sustainability problems with lifetime options.
Yeah, there is a lot of discussion around that, but from what I've found, I've been in business 2 years now with this, and I found the lifetime option to be sustainable in that when I compare it to the amount of support requests I'm getting versus the revenue that I get, that I think it is sustainable. But it's certainly possible that the lifetime option would either increase in price or go away in the future. So. Yeah,
I remember seeing an article. It was very recently, actually. It was Elliot Condon from ACF, and he put together this little table where he showed he's been going for. I think he's probably been going for maybe 5 years or something now. It might even be a little bit longer. And he shows that year on year, he's had the sales have gone up by like 10%. So the sales, this little bar gets a little bit bigger, but the combined number of customers that means and the support tickets each year, at some point it tipped the balance. And for him, coming up very soon, if not already, he's going to drop his lifetime pricing and just head over to regular pricing. Of a yearly subscription. But yeah, we'll see, hopefully, if you're still listening to this and the year is 2022, you never know, it might still be there. Go check it out. How about Guttenberg then? What do you feel about this whole project where, again, at the time of recording it, we're roughly a year since Guttenberg dropped? Obviously, it has pretensions of being a page builder, although it doesn't try to be all things to all people. What do you make of it?
I think it's a really good thing for WordPress overall. I think it had sort of a rocky beginning, and I think it was, no matter what, it was always going to have a bit of a rocky start, just because people are just so persnickety about their technology and the fact that big bad automatic is coming in here and dictating to us what we should be doing. But I think overall it was both necessary for the project, and I think it's going to be a really good thing. One of the interesting parts about what Matt said at the latest WordCamp US was that he said it was 20% done. And so you see that the pretty massive changes over the past year for Guttenberg, and you hear it from the guy leading it that it's only 20% done. I think that tells you the amount of sort of institutional capital that he's put behind this thing and is going to continue to put behind it. So I think that I sort of think maybe this is too dire a statement, but I sort of get the feeling that if Guttenberg fails, then WordPress itself will fail, and so I don't consider that to be something that's going to happen.
No. Do you feel that it's a direction that you're going to move into? Because obviously, You know, the how to describe it, the difficult, although the page builder made so many things much more easy, your prime motive, I suppose, is even that's too difficult for a non-technical user. So let's just strip away all the things which a client can mess and create this Wallace Inline plugin, which just makes it super simple to edit the very basics of what you need to edit. Now, it feels to me as if the block editor, as we should probably be calling it, is kind of reintroducing that stuff. You know, we've got loads of options. People are starting to invent all sorts of blocks with an infinite array of options and what have you. Do you see yourself going towards Guttenberg and creating Wallace Inline for Guttenberg? And what I mean by that is, again, just removing all the editor options, removing the ability to, I don't know, change the font size, change the size of the image, change the position, all of that stuff, stripping it away, just like you've done with Elementor and Beaver Builder.
Yeah, absolutely. That's probably going to be the next page builder that I support. And like I said, I do consider it to be a page builder in the same way that Beaver Builder or Elementor is. And yeah, so I think that if you're making a plugin or God help you, a theme today in the WordPress marketplace, that you're going to have to contend very strongly with Gutenberg sooner rather than later, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that. You've obviously got concerns about themes. Do you sort of see the theme era as slowly but surely coming to a close?
I think it's very quickly coming to a close if it hasn't already. Yeah, I don't really see the place for themes in a block editor driven world.
Yeah. And for those of us who don't understand that rationale, who are just, you know, I've used WordPress for ever and a day, and we've always had a theme. There's always been a need for a theme. In fact, you must have a theme. It's more than, you know, it's kind of like a nice thing to have. Do you want to just explain your reasoning? Because it is interesting.
Well, I think actually in the very, very early days of WordPress, there weren't themes. There was just the one theme to rule them all.
Yep.
And I think we'll have a kind of return to that, just because historically speaking, the theme has been there to define the look of the site, and the block editor and page builders in general. That's also what they do, and so you can't really have them both be dominant. And I think you've seen the importance of themes in the page builder ecosystem decrease in importance over time. And at least from my perspective, what I've been saying is that the most in-demand themes, if you're using a page builder, are the themes that do the least. It's like, what's the most lightweight theme that does as little as possible? Yeah. That's the one I want. And I think eventually that just becomes, well, you know, let's just not use a theme anymore. And I think one of the page builders, I don't remember which one does, maybe you do, that doesn't require a theme.
Yeah, it's Oxygen.
One of the newer. Oxygen. That's the one. Yeah.
It completely hijacks the whole sort of theme architecture, and for that reason, it does things in a very different way. It's absolutely fascinating, and it is interesting. I sort of share your sentiments. I don't know how long this is going to last, or in the same way that we a year ago we were sort of, oh goodness me, page builders, they're on the way out, there's Guttenberg. Who knows what this is going to present? You know, theme builders, people who've traditionally been fabulous at creating themes, no doubt there'll be an interesting pivot to be done whereby you become an expert in building the blocks which ostensibly do the same thing as your theme ever did, and having all of those blocks that now are the theme available for sale instead of like the theme itself.
Yeah, I think it'll be templates. So maybe not even individual blocks. The way I think it maps is like plugins become individual blocks or sets of blocks, and then the themes become the page templates that you arrange them in. Yeah. And so if you're a skilled designer, there will still absolutely be a place for you selling those templates, because those are going to be in very high demand. Everyone, unless you're a skilled designer yourself, will be looking to at least start their sites from a template.
Yeah, that seems to be the direction of travel. You know, you only have to look at loads and loads of template packs that have suddenly become available with really nice design, and in some cases trying to mimic that kind of the stripped down theme that you were talking about, the super lightweight theme. You know, it's basically just a wireframe with some hint as to where things could go, and then the idea is you go into your page builder and build out all the colors and the fonts yourself. But then also lots of interesting products coming around in order to kind of save those templates elsewhere so that you can speed up the flow of your website even more quickly. One thing that comes to mind is Page Builder Cloud. I don't know if you've come across that product, but essentially you put a plugin into your website, and from that moment on, you sync it to your own cloud. So you've got a website somewhere which you've dedicated to be the repository of all of your saved rows and modules and what have you. You install like the child plugin. I'm probably not doing this justice, and then from that moment on, you can, every new site that you create, you can just quickly with one button suck in all the templates that you've ever made before and saved away. I mean, it's just remarkably easy to do, and it takes seconds to build a site from things that you've already created, and I can see that becoming a bit of a thing as well. Online repositories of blocks and what have you. You just sort of download big packs of them. Anyway, yeah, interesting stuff. Sadly, we're out of time, Bradley. I'm gonna have to sort of knock it on the head, as I say. But before we do that, do you want to tell us anything about where we can find you? Twitter handle, URLs that you want to mention, and so on.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, Bradley_Kirby, and then definitely check out WallaceInline.com if you're making a site for clients and you're using Beaver Builder or Elementor.
Thank you very much indeed. Thanks for coming on the show today, Bradley.
Thanks so much. Always fun being on here, Nathan.
Right, that's it. I hope that you enjoyed the podcast this week. It was very pleasurable chatting to Bradley. Like I say, it was a little bit of time ago that we recorded that podcast episode, so perhaps the odd thing has changed. You can certainly hook up with him in the Facebook group, wpbuilds.com/Facebook. I know he's in there, and you could ask him if anything has changed in the time since we recorded it. Anyway, I hope that you found it useful and interesting. The WP Builds podcast was brought to you today by A/B Split Test. Do you want to set up your A/B split tests in record time? Well, the new A/B Split Test plugin for WordPress will have you up and running in a couple of minutes. Use your existing pages and test anything against anything else. Buttons, images, headers, rows, really anything. And the best part, it works with Elementor, Beaver Builder, and the WordPress block editor. You can check it out and get a free demo at absplittest.com. Okay, we produce a lot of content. We'll certainly be back this time next week, so that's a Thursday for the podcast episode. However, remember that we produce a news episode on a Monday, and we also do a live version of the news, 2 p.m. UK time, every single Monday. And as I said at the top of the show, join me and Sabrina on the 16th, Tuesday, the 16th of June 2020, 2 p.m. UK time. When we embark upon our WordPress plugin startup from 0 to 10k installs mini-series. I think that'll be really enjoyable and something a bit fresh and interesting. Okay. Nothing more for me to say except I'm going to fade in some cheesy music and say bye-bye for now.